Have you ever looked at someone you care about and quietly wondered, why does being around them always leave me drained? Or maybe there's a moment, small, quiet, when their words cut deeper than they should, and you're left questioning your worth. What if the very people you're trying hardest to please are the ones slowly pulling apart your confidence and peace of mind? Some relationships don't just fade, they chip away at you, piece by piece. In today's video, we're going to uncover 9 clear signs that it might be time to walk away completely. Even if the person is a close friend, a relative, or someone you've known your whole life. Take a moment. Can you think of someone who makes you feel like you're only appreciated when you're useful to them? Someone who seems to thrive only when you're shrinking yourself to keep the peace? As the Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Choosing distance isn't cruelty, it's clarity. Protecting your peace is not selfish, it's survival. This video won't just help you recognize toxic patterns hidden beneath polite words or family bonds. It will also arm you with the clarity and confidence to let go, without guilt, without second guessing, and stay with me until the end. The final sign is the most subtle and the most dangerous. Many people miss it, but once you see it, you'll never unsee it, and you'll finally understand how to break free for good. Sign number 1, avoid people who use no money as an excuse. Only with you. Have you ever noticed someone whose very first words always revolve around money or the lack of it? At first, it feels innocent. You assume they're going through a tough time. You empathize. But then you start noticing something strange. This same person lives comfortably, perhaps even indulgently. They enjoy trips, hobbies, or meals out. Yet somehow, when it comes to you, they suddenly go silent or bring up financial struggles. They can't pay their share. They back out of plans, but not because they can't afford it. In truth, they just don't want to prioritize you. This isn't about money. It's about intentional behavior. Let me share a personal example. I had a friend who always claimed to be broke whenever we made plans. Dinners, small getaways, even birthday celebrations. Yet at the same time, I'd see them posting from trendy cafes, shopping, or going on trips with others. Every time it came to spending time with me, though, there was always an excuse. It hurt. But eventually, I realized the truth. It wasn't his bank account that held him back. It was his lack of respect for me and our friendship. That moment opened my eyes. A relationship that doesn't value you equally isn't a relationship worth holding on to, because in any genuine bond, friendship, family, or love, mutual effort matters. It's not about gifts or money, it's about intention, care, and fairness. So, if you've ever felt like someone's generosity mysteriously dries up when it comes to you, pause, reflect. That might be the first red flag. And now let's move deeper into the next sign, because this one reveals an even more subtle form of emotional manipulation. We just uncovered how someone's lack of reciprocity, especially when it comes to time, effort, or money, can quietly reveal their disregard for the relationship. But the damage doesn't stop there. Let's continue. 2, avoid people who constantly quarrel and force you to take sides. Have you ever felt like every conversation with someone ends in tension, as if even small talk turns into a debate you never signed up for? That's what happens when you're close to someone who thrives on conflict. They argue over minor things, escalate harmless disagreements into battles, and worst of all, they drag you into it. Suddenly, you're not just a listener, you're expected to choose a side. These people don't just stir chaos in their own lives, they pull the peace out of yours too. Let me share something personal. I once had a friend who appeared confident and charismatic, but whenever there was a slight difference in opinion, he'd blow it out of proportion. One day, while planning a simple weekend getaway with a group of friends, a minor disagreement came up. Within moments, he turned it into a heated argument, and then, in front of everyone, insisted I support him. That moment stayed with me. I realized the friendship wasn't based on respect or understanding. It was about control and ego. When someone constantly forces you to pick sides, it's no longer about resolving issues. It's about creating winners and losers. And in that environment, everyone loses something, especially peace. Arguing all the time doesn't prove intelligence or strength. In fact, it often exposes deep insecurity and emotional instability. Wise individuals don't need to win every discussion. They seek harmony, clarity, and growth. They know when to speak and when to let silence do the healing. So, if you find yourself in frequent, exhausting arguments or feel pressured to defend someone else's ego, pause. Reflect. This isn't the environment where calmness or connection can thrive. Because true strength isn't loud. It's calm, composed, and collected. 3. Avoid people who dismiss or downplay the worries of others. In the journey of life, we all carry burdens, each one different, in weight, shape, and meaning. No two are exactly alike. What feels overwhelming to one person might seem small to another, but that doesn't make it any less real. One of the most painful experiences in any relationship is opening your heart, only to have it brushed aside. Have you ever shared something deeply personal, hoping for understanding, only to be met with someone who immediately turns the spotlight back on themselves? It's more than disappointing. It's quietly heartbreaking. I remember once confiding in a longtime friend. I was struggling to balance work with the demands of caring for my aging parents. I wasn't looking for a solution, just a little empathy. But instead of listening, he skipped over what I said and launched into his own stress at work, as if my challenges didn't even exist. That moment lingered. It wasn't just the lack of response, it was the message behind it. Your struggle doesn't matter, and that's the danger. When someone constantly minimizes your pain or steers every conversation back to themselves, the relationship becomes one-sided. Trust begins to crack. Emotional connection starts to fade. True respect doesn't always show up in grand gestures. Often, it lives in the quietest moments, a sincere thank you, a heartfelt apology, a pause to really listen when someone speaks. And then there's gratitude. Watch closely how people respond when you share joy or sorrow. Do they celebrate with you? Do they show care when you're hurting? Or do they remain indifferent? Or worse, find silent pleasure in your struggles? Because someone who lacks gratitude, someone who shows no empathy, is not just emotionally unavailable, they may be emotionally unsafe. You deserve better. You deserve relationships built on kindness, presence, and mutual respect. Surround yourself with people who truly see you, those who lift you when you're down and cheer for you when you rise. Never let anyone make you feel small for having emotions. There is strength in feeling deeply. There is power in compassion. And that brings us to the next red flag, one that's often disguised as passion or principle, but can quietly turn oppressive. 4. Avoid anyone who tries to force their religious or political beliefs on you. Differences make us human. Our unique perspectives, spiritual, cultural, political, can enrich conversations and deepen mutual respect. When shared with openness, these differences build bridges, but when forced upon others, they burn those bridges to the ground. Some people, however, seem unable or unwilling to accept that others may think differently. Instead of inviting dialogue, they demand alignment. Instead of respecting boundaries, they push until the other person gives in or walks away. I remember someone who used to be one of my closest friends. Each time we talked, no matter the topic, he found a way to circle it back to his beliefs, telling me what I should think, how I should live, and why my views were wrong. At first, I tried to engage, hoping for a healthy exchange of ideas. But with each conversation, I left feeling more drained, more cornered, more unheard. Eventually, I realized these weren't conversations. They were battles. And no matter how calmly I spoke, there was no room for mutual respect, only the desire to win. The truth is, when both sides are clinging to their egos, arguments become meaningless. Even if you win, what's really gained? A bruised friendship, lingering resentment, a moment of pride at the cost of connection, and that's the quiet danger. When belief turns into pressure and conversation becomes a contest. Wise people know that listening is more powerful than insisting. They don't argue just to be right. They seek peace, not dominance. They understand that harmony doesn't come from forcing others to change. It comes from knowing when to accept, when to speak, and when to simply let go. The deepest peace in any relationship lies not in agreement, but in mutual understanding and the freedom to be yourself without fear of being judged or corrected. So if you've ever felt silenced, pushed, or cornered by someone's beliefs, it may be time to ask yourself, is this connection built on control or respect? 5. If being around a friend feels draining, instead of comforting, it might be time to let go. There was once a time when they were inseparable, watching movies, playing sports, dreaming of the future like nothing could ever pull them apart. But life has its own rhythm, and slowly their paths began to drift. One moved to a new city, chasing career goals and building a family. The other stayed in their hometown, embracing a quieter, simpler life. And when they met again, something had changed, not just on the outside, but within. The conversations weren't effortless anymore. They felt scripted, filled with polite small talk and questions that barely scratched the surface. Behind every word was a subtle sense of unfamiliarity, as though they were speaking across a quiet distance neither wanted to admit. My colleague, who shared this story with me, said he initially tried hard to keep the friendship alive. He made the calls, sent the messages, and reached out again and again. But the more he tried, the more evident it became. The bond they once shared had changed. They had grown apart, not in love or care, but in life itself. And so, with a heavy heart, he chose to step back, not out of bitterness, but out of respect for the person his friend had become, and for the person he was becoming too. relationships are like a dance. They require both partners to move in sync. And when the rhythm falters, when you're no longer stepping in time, it doesn't feel like dancing anymore. It feels like strain. Letting go doesn't mean erasing the past. It means honoring it. Sometimes walking away isn't a sign of giving up, but a recognition that both of you are growing in different directions. And that's okay. There's a certain grace in knowing when to hold on and when to move forward. So cherish the laughter, the shared dreams, the old inside jokes. Let them live as warm memories. But don't force something that no longer brings light into your life, because sometimes letting go isn't just a gift to the other person, it's a gift to yourself. 6. Avoid people who constantly complain about their lives, yet never ask about yours. When my mother fell critically ill, I found myself juggling long work hours while also being her primary caregiver. It was one of the hardest seasons of my life, a time when I truly needed support, someone to lean on, or even just a moment of quiet understanding. But instead of comfort, I got Sarah. Every single day, Sarah would call, but not to ask about my mother, not to check in, not even to offer a kind word. No, she called to complain. I hate this job. My boss is useless. My husband never helps with anything. Over and over. At first, I tried to be there. I listened, nodded, offered what little support I had left in me. But as my own emotional strength was crumbling, Sarah never once asked, "How are you holding up?" When I tried gently to shift the conversation and open up about my worries, she would immediately pivot back to herself, her stress, her problems, her frustrations. Each conversation with Sarah felt like being swept into an emotional storm, a whirlwind where only her emotions mattered. I wasn't just drained. I felt guilty for not being able to fix her problems, even though I was barely staying afloat myself. Then came the breaking point. My mother had just undergone a major surgery. I hadn't checked my messages in hours. When I finally did, I found a string of texts from Sarah, followed by a phone call. She wasn't concerned. She was furious. "Why didn't you respond sooner?" she demanded, and that was it. I knew something had to change. I told her, "Sarah, I can't keep doing this. I'm overwhelmed. I need the people around me to support me too, not just take from me." She didn't respond right away. Just silence. And from that moment on, the distance between us quietly grew. It hurt, but it was necessary. Not all sadness deserves a stage. Not all venting is healthy. And not everyone is entitled to your energy. You are not an emotional dumpster. You're not here to absorb someone's pain while they ignore yours. It's okay to say no, to draw a line, to protect your mental space. Learn to listen with intention, not obligation. Not every cry for attention comes from a place of need. Some come from habit, and those habits can erode your peace. Use your ears to listen, but your heart to discern. Prioritize those who truly care about your well-being, not just their own need to unload. Because real connection is mutual. It's rooted in empathy, not imbalance. And as you grow in this awareness, one more painful truth might appear. Some people don't just take emotionally, they also break their word without hesitation. 7. Avoid people who break promises and then pretend they never made them. A promise is never just a string of words. It's a signal that says, "You matter. I'm showing up for you." But what happens when those words are forgotten as easily as they were spoken? I remember once sitting alone at my favorite coffee shop waiting for a friend. We had made plans days before. I arrived early, excited to catch up, sipping slowly and checking my phone, thinking maybe she was just caught in traffic. 30 minutes passed, then 45. And finally, an hour later, I got a text. Totally forgot we had plans today. Sorry, no. Explanation, no attempt to reschedule. Just an offhand apology like it meant nothing. And the worst part? This wasn't the first time it had happened. That day, something in me shifted. I realized it wasn't about one missed coffee date. It was about how little value she placed on my time, my presence, and our friendship. Maybe she didn't intend to hurt me, but intentions don't erase the weight of repeated neglect. When someone constantly forgets what they've promised, they're not just being careless, they're telling you, whether they realize it or not, that your time doesn't matter as much as theirs. A relationship like that becomes heavy, not because of a single broken promise, but because of the repeated message, you're not a priority. It's easy to make excuses for them. They're just busy. They didn't mean to. It's not personal. But if their actions keep making you feel like an afterthought, maybe it's time to stop offering chances and start honoring your own worth. Respect begins with consistency, with showing up, with remembering not just appointments, but emotionally presence. You deserve to be surrounded by people who don't just speak kind words, but back them up with action. People who don't forget you, people who make space for you, not out of obligation, but out of genuine care. So if someone keeps breaking their word and brushing it off like nothing, it's okay to walk away. Every time you say no to someone who disrespects your time, you make room for those who will honor it. You are not just worthy of love, you are worthy of being remembered. Heartbeat, avoid people who repeatedly complain without ever seeking change. There's a difference between sharing and circling. And when someone keeps revisiting the same pain without ever taking a step toward healing, it doesn't just hold them back, it starts to pull you under too. Eventually, I reached a turning point with my former colleague. One day, after yet another familiar complaint, I gently interrupted her and said, I really value our friendship, but I feel like we're stuck in a loop. If we keep talking in circles like this, it won't help either of us. If you truly want to change things, I'm here, but it has to start with you. She didn't take it well. Her reaction was defensive, distant. But deep down, I knew I had spoken from a place of honesty and care. Because listening, while beautiful, becomes a burden when it leads nowhere. It becomes emotional quicksand. True friendship is not about endlessly nodding along. It's about helping each other grow, even if that means saying what the other person doesn't want to hear. Kindness isn't just about soothing someone's pain. Sometimes it's about encouraging them firmly but lovingly to face it and rise above. Real support is rooted in truth, not in silence. And now we shift to another kind of imbalance, one that hides behind pride and glory, the person who cannot stop boasting. 9. Avoid people who constantly brag about the past. Have you ever noticed how some people always find a way to steer the conversation back to their past triumphs? No matter the topic, it circles back to their golden years, the awards they won, the praise they received, the power they once held. At first, it might come off as inspiring, but with time, it starts to feel repetitive. hollow, even performative. Once knew someone exactly like this. He had a long list of accolades and prestigious recognitions from years ago, and he'd never missed a chance to bring them up. He'd recall every detail with vivid pride. The moment he walked across the stage, the applause, the praise. But when conversations turned toward his current life, he would go quiet or quickly change the subject. It became painfully clear he wasn't sharing these stories to connect. He was clinging to them because the present felt empty and the past was all he had left to feel important. What saddened me most wasn't his success. It was the fact that he couldn't move beyond it. People around him began to quietly distance themselves, not because of his achievements, but because of his refusal to live in the present. You see, true confidence isn't loud. It doesn't constantly need to remind others of its worth. It simply shows up in how we live today. Boasting doesn't inspire connection. It often pushes people away. It can make others feel small, or worse, invisible. Let your current life be your proof. Your actions today should speak louder than memories from yesterday. Because real value doesn't hide behind old victories, it shines through present character. Coming up next, we'll explore one of the most overlooked but damaging patterns: the people who constantly compete with you, even in moments that should be filled with joy or vulnerability. After exploring the dangers of living in the past, we arrive at a final truth. Humility doesn't just make you likable. It deepens your relationships through genuine connection and mutual respect. As the old saying goes, silence is golden, and often it's those who speak less but act with intention who are remembered the most. They don't need to compete, compare, or constantly prove their worth. Their quiet confidence radiates something deeper: authenticity. These are the kinds of people who leave lasting impressions, not because they shouted the loudest, but because they listened the best, showed up consistently, and made others feel truly seen. So now, I'd love to hear from you. What's one moment in your journey that taught you the power of walking away, or the strength in setting boundaries? What lesson shifted how you see relationships, even if it was painful at first? Whether it's a success, a quiet victory, or even a tough experience you've overcome, share it in the comments below. And if you're not sure what to say, simply write "peacefulness" to let me know you've completed this reflection. Your story matters, and your presence here helps grow a community built not on noise, but on wisdom, depth, and the art of turning pain into purpose. If this video resonated with you, be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and continue the journey of self-mastery. I've left 2 videos here to guide your next steps, tools to help you grow stronger, calmer, and more rooted in who you truly are. Thank you for watching. Until next time, protect your peace and walk with clarity.